Hey, let's talk about the ugly and frustrating side of travel. So my name's Jeff, not yet at Adventures, and today's just gone to shit. And I thought I would make a good video because it's a good example. So I'll get into what's going on today in a few minutes. But let me tell you about a discussion I had a while ago to kind of set the stage. So I was talking with somebody and they were giving me a hard time about not tasting a bunch of random food, and I was being very selective about the food I ate. And they're giving me a hard time about it, and I'm like, look, you need to understand, for you eat some random food and you're not feeling well, and big deal, a day or two off work at the worst, right? I mean, outside, like left field worst would be a hospital stay or something like that, right? But the worst that's going to happen is maybe in more realistic terms is a bad day at work or a couple days off work, something like that, right? Where when you're traveling as fast as I am or as often as I am, you get some food poisoning, you may miss a flight, and that may cascade into you missing a whole bunch of reservations. And some of those are refundable, some of those aren't. Some are, refundable enough in advance, but things like tomorrow or the next day are usually never refundable. And for good reason. I understand the hotel's reasons for doing that. They want to minimize that no-show rate. Even big hotels, even with a non-refundable, they still get like a 10% no-show rate on some larger locations. So they want to minimize that. But it all comes back to me because I'm the one traveling and I'm the one making these decisions. And for me, it's risk mitigation, right? And not compromising my enjoyment or my experience, but also not compromising my enjoyment and experience in the future, right? So you have to play that balance game and make those decisions. So like what's going on today, I'm leaving shortly, a few days or so, and so when I've been here, I don't know, 2 weeks, so I start to plan out, okay, I need to repack everything. I need to cull everything I've picked up, everything I've bought, right? Clean out everything I'm not going to take with me. I'm not going to put on my back and walk away with. And I want to make sure everything still fits, make sure I still have everything, make sure I have everything I need where I'm going. And today was going to be that day. There's some content I wanted to listen to and some things I wanted to do online. So I just came back to the hotel. I got some snacks, some food, some drinks, and I figured I'd spend some time sitting out here on the balcony, listening to content, watching content, doing some work on the computer about some travel arrangements that need to get wired tight, and then spend the rest of the time in the room cleaning up, packing, and have my bags packed so when I leave in a few days, it's just a grab and go situation. So tomorrow would be smooth. And the internet at the hotel has been getting worse and worse and worse. And this isn't only about the internet. So I'll wrap all this up into a more general thing about, the downside of travel and the frustrations of travel. But first you need the background, right? So the internet's getting worse and worse the last few days. Today, I can't get anything to pop. I can't get an email to pop. I can't get anything to pop. And I should have planned better and said, look, this isn't working. I should have, complained a week ago when the internet started slowing down. All these I should haves, I could haves, right? But, I don't try to make waves. I don't try to be that complaining guy, that, nitpicky guy. I'm a pretty go with the flow. But then you end up in situations like this where you need things to work. And you need to get that email, you need to get that photo, you need to get that whatever, right? And it's time sensitive. And I'm kind of in a time sensitive thing here where, now what I should be doing, I have no desire to do, is I should pack up all my computer, my phones, my, make sure I have my credit cards, my passport, and all that stuff, basically my short bag, and go sit at a cafe for 4 to 6 hours and get this stuff done. But I have no desire to do that. It's the last thing I want to do. I'm tired. I want to chill. I want to relax. I want to do my thing. And I don't want to get dressed and have to go spend more money that for things I don't want, right? I don't want to spend money on things I don't want and I probably won't enjoy because I don't want them. You know, it's hard to enjoy something you don't want that you're just buying to be there. And I do it at times. Everybody should, and you know, it's the right choice at times, right? Go buy a coffee to use the space, but you know, it's just frustrating. And so today, everything I wanted to get done, everything I needed to get done, is now, you know, everything I wanted to get done is gone. Everything I needed to get done is in jeopardy, and you know, the whole day is just spinning down the proverbial, you know, porcelain throne, right? And it's just frustrating. It is so frustrating. So how does all this wrap into you? And if you decide to travel or be an expat or be a nomad, you're going to experience days where things just don't work. And you know, it befuddles the American mind, in my experience, in my perception, talking to other people as well. It befuddles the American mind how such simple tasks seem totally impossible to accomplish. Totally impossible to accomplish. And, you know, and I've been in so many situations where the most simple task is just beyond reach that day. And you have to just go, and it's even, you know, the stress really gets compounded when you start looking at, hey, you know, I travel today or I travel tomorrow. I need to get this done before I travel. You know, and when you're sitting there for hours trying to get, you know, this or that done before you travel, and everything else has just gone to shit, you know, you end up getting on the plane, if you get on the plane, you know, stinky, unprepared, like you know, didn't get time to shower, you didn't get time to wash your clothes, whatever it is, right? And now you're moving forward with all that negative energy. So the skills that are required to overcome this, obviously, is a lot of patience. I haven't heard a YouTuber yet who's a nomad or an expat who doesn't talk about you need to have a lot of patience to be successful or even just survive, right? But you also need to have solutions and be able to compromise your standards within reason in order to move forward. You know, if there's no food available, guess what? I'm going to eat whatever I need to. But the first question I'm going to ask is, do I really need to eat, or is there some other hack or trick I can use to feel satiated and just, you know, go about my day without eating whatever it is in front of me? And those are out there if you're looking for them and you find them. And you know, that's where you start to get really creative and you start to get really innovative in your solution sets, right? And you start to go, okay, I don't have to have that specific item. You know, this or that will work. And so today, you know, the answer is going to be, I'm going to set this camera down and, you know, pack up everything I need to do all my travel planning, all my travel arrangements, because I don't want to have to run back to the hotel, right, to get it done. And I'm not going to get that content consumed that I wanted to get consumed today. I'm not going to get the book, you know, reading in the book done today. You know, and I can go through the whole list of things that I'm not going to get done simply because it's going to take me so much more time of my day to go from here to the cafe to set up. I mean, even just taking my laptop, you know, with a power bank, hard drives, and going to the cafe and setting up, that's an hour right there before I'll be on the internet. So I got to walk there, order coffee, you know, and I'm not saying anything negative about this, but there's always pleasantries involved. There's always this, there's always that, right? And then to sit down and, you know, you have to pull everything out, plug everything in, turn it on, get on, right? Make sure everything's charged, make sure things are charging. And it's just a process. We're here, everything's already out, I don't have to pack it, everything's up and plugged in and running, and, you know, it's just, you know, open the screen and get to work. Pick up the phones, the credit cards are right there. You know, it's just, I don't have to put it all in a bag, travel, and then unbag it, and then do it. So it's about an hour process before I'll even be online and doing anything productive in that task I need to get done today. You know, there's always that, I want to get done, I need to get done. That's a need to get done today because it's time sensitive. And travel is first come, first serve. So if I don't get it done today, there may be no tomorrow, and if there is a tomorrow, it may cost more, right? And we don't like things that cost more. Sometimes they do, sometimes you bite it, right? But costing more is never like the option I'm choosing for, unless I'm getting something else in return, right? There's no reason I want to go spend money just to spend money. I'm the guy who, when the taxi quotes me a higher price, I just walk away. And a lot of my strategies rely on the ability the ability I possess to just walk away. And if you don't have the ability to walk away from 90% of your things that day, you're going to find yourself in a corner all the time. You're going to find yourself in a position you don't want to be in. So that's what I got going today. I'm a little frustrated, but this is one of those ugly sides of travel that I really think people need to pay more attention to before they make the decision to go full-blown expat, before they sell everything and jump on a plane or a boat. Is are you understanding that what it really means for everything to go sideways? And the most simple task can take you days, hours, weeks, when before it would take you 5 minutes at home, 10 minutes at home, an hour at home. And if it went sideways, there's a million workarounds, right? I mean, how often does your internet go down at home and on the one day you set aside to do all your internet work? I don't know. Fortunately I've got flexibility, and I could put it off to tomorrow, but because of I watch a lot of things, I've got a lot of awareness from experience, and it's coming closer to the end of the month. And so travel for the next month, there's this like crunch period where if you're not done, soon enough in the month prior, the next month everything just disappears. And so people start, it's that planning phase that the masses are in. You want to be just ahead of that planning phase, because otherwise, travel's first come, first serve, and they're going to get it and you're not, or you're going to pay more. And like I said, I'm not about paying more. I don't want to pay more. I want to pay less and less and less so I can do more and more and more. But that means today I got to get off my ass. I got to get off this beautiful balcony. I got to pack up everything and go find a place to sit, and hopefully it's quiet enough, and hopefully I can get my work done. But I promise you, the music's going to be so loud wherever I go, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to be able to make a phone call. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to do that, because public spaces, they are just getting louder and louder and louder on purpose. Even sitting out here on the balcony, there's music that I've got the microphone on, I'm faced away from, but there's music 24/7 out here that you just can't get away from. And that's why I'm speaking a little louder, because I've got to talk over the music, and I've got to talk over obviously the road noise is expected, but the world is just getting louder and louder. There's even some chuckleheads on YouTube who are putting audio tracks, beat tracks behind their voice. And I don't know why anybody would do that. And I've told a few people I've been to subscribe to for a long time, like, you make another video like that and I'm just going to unsub. And no, I'm not talking about subbing to the unsubscribed podcast, because they would have to really do a lot of stupid shit for me to unsubscribe. And you should go check them out. Unsubscribed podcast. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. They're a wonderful thing. But if you are thinking about going expat or extended travel or nomad, just think about this process. Think about what's going to happen when you've got no clean clothes and you're getting on a flight in 4 hours, and the laundry, or you're leaving for a flight in 4 hours or 6 hours or whatever. There's a time crunch, and the laundry mat you went to or the laundry facilities you went to are closed or broken or out of order. What are you going to do? Try never to put yourself in that situation, but it happens, right? And that's where you start learning by experience all these little crazy nuances that people like me and other YouTubers talk about. So that's one of the ugly sides of travel is, you can't depend on getting your tasks done in a timely manner, doing them the same way you have in the past. It's just not going to happen. And it'll happen 90% of the time, and the one time you're dependent on that procedure working for you, that practice working for you, that the way I've always done it working for you, it's just going to fail. You're going to be stuck in a line, you're going to be here, you're going to be there. Happens at airports all the time. You get to an airport and all of a sudden, instead of breezing through security like everyone else, you're pulled aside and they're going through every item, they're swapping every coin, and you're sitting there like, I still have to go through immigration and I still have to get on the plane. Oh, and the plane is boarding in 10 minutes. Great. Right? And sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. But, when you fail to plan, that's when little Murphy from Murphy's Law sneaks in, right? And so all those people who want to talk trash about my, obsessive planning in the last video or a couple videos ago, it's from experience. The guy who said I don't know anything about travel, okay, that's an opinion, and you're welcome to it. But the funny thing about a lot of these chuckleheads that talk smack on the internet is they never bring receipts. They never be specific. They're just like, a certain political party that just like to call everybody names and not really bring the justification for that with them. They're just like, he's. Okay, break it down. And if you're not listening to people who are willing to go back and break down what they said and support what they said, or change their perspective, right? Because if you call somebody out and you're right, or you're more clear on what reality is, and they don't look at it and change their perspective, then why are you listening to them? Find the voices for your head. The 5 are the most important, right? But find the voices for your head that are willing to see your reality, and you're willing to see their reality, because that's the new buzzwords now, is reality, right? It's, I live in a different reality than you. Yes, you do, because you think unicorn rides and rainbow slides are the norm, and I've never seen them. I've never seen a live unicorn. I've never seen a rainbow that was a slide. So, paint your crosswalks rainbow all you want, but, I don't get it. I don't understand. I'm done ranting. I feel I've purged all that negative energy. If you absorbed it, I'm sorry. If you stuck around, thank you. And, hopefully, again, 90% of my stuff is for me. The other 10% like this is just to get you to think. I don't want you to ever listen to me thinking I know everything, or I am the end all be all master of the subject. Every word that comes out of my mouth is for you to think about and steel man yourself. And if you haven't started steel manning arguments, work on it. It's find the holes in everything I said, share them with me or not, but that's a good way to approach conversations, lectures, chuckleheads with cameras and gray hair and opinions on the internet, right? At the end of the day, that's all I am, is another chucklehead with some gray hairs, a lot of opinions, and a camera. So take care. See you, bye. Hey, for the record, I happened to bump into the manager at the hotel. He immediately got on the phone and upped the speed at the hotel, the internet speed. And it was the fastest internet I'd had in a long time. I got everything done in a fraction of the time I wanted to because the speed was so quick. It's funny how, I didn't approach him with any animosity or any frustration or anything. I'd already come to terms with, my course of action. And I just kind of mentioned it to him because I was, going to check out in a few days. I'm like, hey, you should check this out. And the other funny thing about it is, like, the next day, because this was 2 days before I was checking out. The next day, the internet was back at that super slow speed, and then it would burst up. So I think he's got some internet leeches there. Needs to change his password more often. And I'm headed back in that direction. I'll probably shoot him a message about that. But it was just so funny because, I was went downstairs to do some things. I was going to go back upstairs, pack up everything out, and go to find a place to sit down and work. And no need, right? He just solved the problem right then and there. And, I honestly believe if I'd gone to him with any level of frustration, he would have just shrugged his shoulders and said, I'll look into it, right? But I just come to terms with it, right? And, I was walking around that happy guy, like, okay, this is what we're doing, right? And, it was just kind of funny to me the way that all unfolded. And then I got straight to work and I kind of lost everything. I even forgot I'd filmed this clip. But I figured I'd post it all the same just because I think it has a little bit of value if it's heard by the right person at the right time in the right state of mind, right? So not everybody's going to take value from it. Not everybody's going to like it. But maybe there's someone out there who will, and they'll find it.